Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Educated Clone Snap channel. How you doing? So today, I'm tired. So tired, guys. I woke up at like 6 a.m. to fix the lag issues. Anyways, regardless, we're going to be talking about the large, I guess, Marvel Snap tournament that happened this week. It featured 128 players, and I kind of wanted to talk about their deck lists and just some interesting tidbits, blah, 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 blah. You know how I talk now. Let's get started. Anyways, so here I do have a list of all the 8 finalists, essentially the top 8. And there are some trends to take note of, some trends to really keep in mind for your own gameplay. Obviously, it's Thanos meta right now. So, yes, half of the deck list are Thanos. Yes, Thanos is really strong. The winner was Thanos, Lockjaw. The runner-up was also Thanos Lockjaw. And then there was also 2 more Thanos Lockjaws in the top 8. So, yes, obviously, Thanos Lockjaw is a good deck, blah, blah, blah. We all know this, but there's still some interesting tidbits to take note of. So even though Thanos Lockjaw was dominant, there's no Shuri in the top 8. Now, is that because no one brought Shuri? I don't think so. I just think these are battle mode games, and Shuri is just not the best battle mode card. It's very one-dimensional in how you win. It's also very predictable in what they want to be doing, especially the standard Shuri list. Now, I don't actually think Shuri itself is that predictable of a card. It's just like the standard list people are running, especially in ladder, are pretty predictable. So you kind of have to do something unique with Shuri to make it like less predictable. And I don't think like, oh, Shuri itself has to be a predictable card. I don't believe that. But a lot of the list, the Red Skull Shuri list, Taskmaster, that kind of thing, is a pretty predictable game flow. And you especially know when Shuri lists are not ahead, right? Like that's something that really hurts Shuri in battle mode. You know when it's not ahead, and you know when they're missing a key piece. If they don't play Shuri on 4, they're probably behind. Maybe you can snap that kind of thing, right? And that really hurts those type of deck lists in battle modes because it's going to be hard to really get that consistency of, okay, we're ahead, we've snapped, we're behind. Oh, should I snap? Oh, they're playing, Thanos. I don't know what they're going to do, right? What Shuri you do. So blah, blah, blah. That's really why you don't see Shuri too much in final compositions unless they're running a unique list that kind of gets around that problem. I do also want to talk about some of the other core cards. Even though Thanos was like the dominating card, it wasn't the best performing in my opinion, or the most popular, right? You can see in this list, there's actually 2 cards that are in almost every single list, right? Except for one. There's 2 cards in almost every single list. If you're looking at the list, right, it's pretty obvious to see. It's Sunspot and Arrow. Now, Arrow, I think we've all known is like one of the best cards. Also, Sunspot, I guess we all know, like this card is insane. But it just works really well with what a lot of players want to be doing. A lot of times they're taking advantage of the Arrow She-Hulk interaction. Also, it's just a good 1-drop to play if you're missing things. And it just kind of showcases, even though, it's a 1-drop, there aren't enough Killmongers that people are playing in battle mode to really punish that Arrow usage, and it can just like do a lot of work for you. So it's just interesting how popular some cards can be, even though everyone knows it's coming, right? The Sunspot, like no one's like, oh my god, he brought a Sunspot, but it still just works really well, right? So that thing I do want to talk about. I also want to talk about how the meta is the meta for a reason, right? Like you can say, oh, I'm gonna play a Thanos counter deck, which some people did bring. I would say one of these decks is a pretty heavy Thanos counter deck, but it didn't win, did it? No, the Thanos deck will still beat it. So it's just kind of showcasing that, yeah, you can try to mess with the meta, but it is there for a reason. People do play test in the hundreds and thousands of games per day. And a deck list will rise up, and it rises up for a reason because it's good. So hopefully the patch changes this. We're not going to continue with the Thanos meta, but it is interesting just kind of taking a look at this. We're going to go over these one by one and kind of talk about it. I'm just kind of showcasing the deck list in whole and some overarching thoughts about the top 8 finalists. I also want to talk about piloting, right? So even though probably more than these, like a lot of people probably bought Thanos Lockjaw, these are the ones that performed. And I know a couple of people here actually, and I know they're good players. I play them or I've seen them play, and it just kind of showcases like the power of piloting can really be the difference maker. Even if you have the exact same list as someone else, if you know the matchup better, if you know, oh, I need to do this and that, or you bring that one tech card, that can be the difference maker in skill set. So obviously RNG is part of the game, and someone can beat you because location RNG. They can beat you because they draw better. Blah blah blah. Piloting does matter, and you'll see consistency if there's more tournaments like this where the same players are really reaching these top 8 positions. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we dive deep into the particular deck list is that just having surprises in your deck can be good. So you can see in a couple of these lists that people have cards that I guess I wouldn't call a traditional addition to the deck list, but these were the ones that performed the best, even without that stock standard list, because people just kind of assume you're running the standard list, and then as you play the battle mode, the surprises come out and then they adjust. But what's really nice about battle mode is you can kind of punish them for assuming things, right? If they assume you don't have a card and you've played like multiple games without playing this card, and then they're like, oh, I've never seen a Killmonger, I've never seen a Shang-Chi, blah blah blah, and then they get comfortable, and then you hit them with the Shang-Chi, you hit them with the Killmonger. That can be that 4.4 cube swing, 8 cube swing, really turns the game around. So definitely like the addition of surprise in a lot of these deck lists, and we're definitely going to talk about it. But overall, those are my initial thoughts about it. But let's go through it one by one, starting from the top. This is my thing. So first off, we have Moyen playing a Thanos Lockjaw list. Crazy, I know. Ooh. But I would say this is actually probably the most standard of the list, which is maybe a little bit sad to say. But I actually think there's like nothing here is particularly weird. In my opinion, he might not be. Yeah, I wouldn't say there's anything weird here, but it just goes to show you, like, hey, I'm playing the best deck and I'm piloting it well. I can win with it. So yeah, just kind of obvious Thanos meta. I'm not like too interested in the Thanos decks, to be fair, but I do want to just, hey, Thanos Lockjaw is pretty good. If you haven't played it and you have Thanos, what are you doing? That kind of thing. Runner up was also playing a very similar list. I mean, almost copycat, right? The only thing that this list doesn't have is Kang, or this list has is Kang. And I will say that Kang is pretty weird, I guess, in terms of battle mode sometimes. So the nice thing is you do have the Lockjaw. So you have the consistency. But the problem is in mirror matches, it's not good because they're playing that same deck, except they have an extra card up on you, right? This person has a Magneto, and you don't have a Magneto. So if they do a very similar play to you, right, and you hit the Kang, right? Sure, you thin your deck, blah blah blah, but then like they could just hit Magneto, and then they have a Magneto into you when you don't. So that's like the downside in mirror matches. So preferably you want a deck that doesn't have these mirror matches, so you can have that advantage of, oh, things are good. But if the exact same things happen to you and your opponent, they just have an extra card up on you, right? They have a whole 12-point power that you don't have access to. So it makes the mirror matches weird. But overall, like, it's still good to have a Kang, and you get more information. You get the bait snap, you get this pressure, and you really have to take advantage of all that in battle mode. The thing is, once they know you have Kang, then your snaps become less, like, it becomes easier to telegraph, oh, they're snapping because of a Kang, not because they have a grid position, and things like that. And then it becomes more of this mind game to work with. But especially, normally, this is a great deck. It just has that issue of mirror matches where they have an extra card up on you that you don't. So you do have to be careful about that. But it's still a great position to be in. So here we have the weirdest deck of the list, in my opinion. This is like, what is this doing here? Now, I actually don't think the deck's bad, and I've been running a hella deck casually on ladder, but this deck isn't here because it's amazing. This deck is here because playing high roll decks is strong in tournaments, actually. So high roll decks can perform very well. The problem is they're also not consistent. So basically, 4 people can bring this list, and maybe 1 will do well, and then the 3 will bust her out, right? Because they didn't high roll consistently, right? But you have the potential to be top 3, right? In a Thanos meta with running a list like this because you can high roll. But it's not something you would go for consistency with, right? You wouldn't say, okay, I need to win. I need to get top 8 in 3 out of 4 tournaments. Let's bring hella discard. No, right? If you're like, okay, I need a top 4 in 1 out of 4 tournaments. Okay, this is the deck to bring because you can take it. Well, you should bring Locked Out Thanos, let's be honest. But like theoretically, if you didn't have that, this is the type of deck to bring because you can high roll your opponents, and it's hard to counterplay the high roll, right? Like, how do you counterplay you having hella on 6 with Giganto Infinite Death in the disc? Like, how do you counterplay that? You know, I don't know. So that's really the power here. I will say not a lot of people brought Cosmo, but that's because of Thanos, right? Like, they're just playing Thanos, and you don't run Cosmo and Thanos, but it is cool to see a high roll deck do well. It just kind of not really copyable. This is a fun ladder deck though, but I wouldn't say, oh yeah, this is the new meta coming up after the changes. Now here we have another Thanos lockjaw, but this one has an extra card that you don't see often. Vision. Hey. So now this one has Vision instead of instead of Kang. Let me see what's different here. Instead of Kang, it's Vision, I think. Oh no, instead of Chavez, instead of American Chavez, they're running Vision, which I do actually like the Chavez better because it adds that consistency to your deck list. So I am a Chavez believer, but you know, Vision is still really good. Obviously, this deck performs very well, and you do have that high roll potential of getting the Vision, moving it into another lane, now affecting 2 lanes with your lockjaw potential. So yeah, definitely. And then you have the Space Stone to do even more. So yeah, this can be really good. I do think with the Space Stone, you can kind of do this already, but Vision's a good card, I think, in general, especially in battle mode. So I like this. It's basically a Chavez that you control, the 5-head Chavez. This is what I call it. So I think the list makes sense. I think the list is pretty good. Don't have much to say about it as well. Oh, right. There's another one. So here's... oh, my God. There's more. Here's another Lockjaw Thanos. This one's running Magic, which I think is pretty interesting. And the Magic allows it to run the Infinite, right? So you get this extra win con here where you can go Magic, pass on 6, go Infinite, She-Hulk, right? Like as they do. And then, you know, you can combine it with your 0-power stones if you still have them in your hand. So you can really just pop off in the last turn with this magic thing. And the magic's also good into the arrow mirrors, right? So let's say your opponent, I mean, you're assuming your opponent's going to She-Hulk arrow you on 6. You play magic on 5. Now that She-Hulk arrow doesn't feel that good. And then you get to play the Infinite Buster. So it wins those matchups. So this is a pretty cool tech that you can add into this particular deck if you're going against a ton of She-Hulk Arrow on 6 gameplay. So I do like this tech. I think it's pretty cool. Worked out pretty well for him. So can't really complain. Now here we go. Some of the non-Thanos lists. These are the ones I really want to talk about. So first off, we have Sarah Control. I think people have been like hating on Sarah because of, I guess, the leech meta and oh, you know, your cards get leeched on 5 and you don't get to do anything. But it's still a good deck list. Sarah is still an amazing card, and I just find it weird that a lot of people are like, "Ooh, Sarah bad," and I'm like, "No, it's not. It's still a good card." And this is a pretty standard, like Angela, Mysterio, Bishop, Sarah, with the tech counters. And I think this, like the difficulty of this deck is it's hard to pilot, right? Like you're basically countering everything. That's how you win. You have to either counter with Killmonger, counter with Shang-Chi, counter with Cosmo, counter Enchantress, counter with Scarlet Witch. And then you also have to make sure that your big bombs, which are your Angela Bishop, are in the right lanes. And then, you know, you make sure that you're playing well, playing consistently with the rest of your deck, right? Because you're not relying on big power swings, right? You don't have a Daredevil. I mean, not Daredevil. You don't have a Devil Dinosaur. You don't have you know, a Darkhawk, any big point swingers. So you have to just make sure everything works, or make sure you're countering your opponent's play. So this is definitely like the hardest deck, I think, to pilot here. But if you can pilot it well, right, you can get great results. So definitely big ups to Xiaolin here. So pretty cool. Love to see it. And then here we have, you know, a favorite of mine, theoretically, you know, a Zabu Darkhawk list. You know, I used to run that all the time. It's running Scarlet Witch, so, you know, the golf clap there. Definitely a pretty standard list. I guess the unique things here is this one runs the Cosmo, which isn't that common. So it also runs Shang-Chi, and it runs the Kang, as well as the Devil Sword. Actually, I guess Devil Sword is not common in this list. Yeah, the Devil Sword is not common. Okay, so this one's pretty weird, actually, now that I'm fully looking at it with the Devil Sword in there, because you're not running like a She-Hulk or anything, or Professor X or Spider-Man to take advantage of the Devil Sword. You're kind of just mind gaming them with the Daredevil and then the Kang and then the Darkhawk, you know, pop out play. There's no Mystique in there as well, so you're just making sure that your things are pretty high tech. You do have the Moon Girl synergy, so you can go like double Kang. Oh my god, that sounds so annoying. But yeah, this is a pretty interesting Darkhawk list, kind of fully on the mind game potential of the deck, abusing the Daredevil Kang interaction, especially with Moon Girl. You still have the Arrow, you still have the Sunspot, the normal things. So yeah, pretty cool deck list. Definitely respect this player. So and probably one of the weirder lists that top 8 here. So pretty cool here. And then I believe the last list here we're talking about is the Moon Girl. I guess Moon Zoo. It's not running Kazoo. The Zoo is in relation to all the small 1-drops that they're running. So he has Quinjet with Maria Hill, with Sentinel, with Moon Girl, right? So that's giving you a ton, and then the Hood. So it's giving you a ton of small point plays. I actually like this type of deck, or yeah, I actually like, I guess like is the type. I like this type of deck and how it works, because if you're not paying attention, they will blow you out on the final turn, right? And it also works well against the players that want to arrow you. So usually, right, people play arrow on the last turn to move your cards into one lane and then blow you out. But what this actually does is on the last turn, you're just flooding the board with tons of cards. So that arrow is useless, right? You're not moving anything because that you're probably filling that lane with 4 cards. So it just turns off that arrow counterplay that people love to do. And I guess it's only weak, or like it has, well, you know, Thanos, blah, blah, blah. But one of the big weaknesses is the Killmonger. but you're probably going to be behind final turn, right? You have the hood on the board. You haven't really played that much. You're just like scaling off a sunspot in one lane, right? You don't have a ton of big point plays until that final turn. So that Killmonger is not that big of a problem here, and you just dump a ton of power here. So that is a pretty fun, pretty cool way of playing this game. You get to play Maria Hill, which a lot of people don't really see the value of, but with the Quinjet, right? That Maria Hill 1-drop is 0, that Demon is 0, the Sentinel is 1, and then the She-Hulk, right? Especially with Moon Girl, you can be playing double She-Hulk, Demon, 1-drop, Titania. Like you could just slam that board with a ton of cards. So definitely like this style of deck. I really like how it goes, and pretty cool one. But overall, right, those are the top 8 lists here. You can kind of see the tournament Snap Battle Arena. They do have a Twitter, and I also want to talk about, I am going to be casting, I believe, for them on the 25th. So for the next tournament, if you do want to take a look at that, right, go to their Discord, sign up there. And then if you make it to the top cut, because I'm going to be casting the top cut. So if you make it there, I might cast your game. If you're interested in that, take a look there. But overall, I just wanted to review the tournament. There were some good, interesting deck lists that I thought were in there that you could technically play for the rest of the season if you want to. But overall, that's my video for today. Hope you guys liked it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.
Educated calling snap. Once you watch him, you won't go back. He'll teach you to marvel snap. Your skills will be